Hey guys, First Regardsman here, and today I want to talk about the unacceptable state of bugs in Space Marine 2 patch 8.0, and really the game in general. Space Marine 2 has always been a game that feels like it runs on spaghetti code. I recently finished a Wave 27 hard siege attempt. We were trying to push to Wave 40, and the way our game ended was at Wave 27 we encountered an invincible lictor, and no matter what we did, dropped melta-bombs on it, tried to shoot it in the face with like a bot, and then we eventually summoned the Dreadnought. The inevitable end of our run was we just had to die and just finish our mission that way, and it was 2 hours gone forever. And prior to this, I had multiple disconnects. Honestly, at this point, most of my high siege pushes just end in a disconnect or a crash or a bug like this because the game does not function. They come out with a wave that they advertise as like an infinite wave, basically. They said that siege mode will be endless. It'll be an endless wave system, but they have a timer in here still because their spaghetti code does not allow them to actually have this many enemies for a horde mode. And you know, the simple solution to that would have been, if you can't have that many enemies, if you can't have an endless wave, maybe don't advertise it as an endless wave, because nobody was expecting it to be endless at first. A lot of people thought it would just be like a set amount of waves and you fight through, and that's kind of how they set it up to be now. But you know, they said it's going to be endless before the PTS even came out, and now it's just not that at all. Like, eventually you will get hard capped. It is just false advertisement at that point from what they said it was going to be. They did say they're trying to fix it, but even if they do fix the timer, what's the point of going up to like the highest wave you possibly can if your game just breaks from like things that are completely out of your control? It's not fun to play 3 hours of siege mode and then have your game crash or disconnect you. And siege mode is already like the biggest commitment you can possibly make in Space Marine 2. This game mode takes forever. Even like a wave 15 is longer than an operation a lot of the times, especially if you don't have a good team and you're playing with randoms on hard mode. You might just take like an hour plus to get to wave 15, and that's ridiculous. And they expect you to keep playing after like an endless wave when there are these ridiculous bugs. And this was supposed to be the big update for Space Marine 2. This was supposed to be like the big one, the end of the initial roadmap, because this game is a live service. It's just a mediocre one because it now has not one but 2 roadmaps, and it's trying to sell you DLC all the way up until presumably Space Marine 3, because that seems to be where all their actual effort is going towards. Hopefully that game's good, because this game's been kind of left behind a bit. And it's not that we don't get any new content, it's that the content we get is like the bare minimum, and that's really what it feels like. It feels like we're getting the drip feed of the bare minimum, and people are pissed because they want to love this game. People want to play Space Marine 2. This game is not just some trash can game to players. People aren't just like, oh haha, it's the Space Marine game, I don't really care. People love Space Marines. Space Marines are the 40k poster boys. They are the most popular part of 40k, period. And this is the quintessential Space Marine experience that you're going to get in the form of a video game currently, outside of like Space Marine 1. And really, outside of like Darktide and Tacticus and maybe Rogue Trader and like some of the Total War Warhammer games, this is the biggest 40k game, or one of the biggest, and that's just how it is currently. That it's just kind of undercooked with every update we've had post-launch, because people want a good post-launch support. People are looking for that Helldivers experience, so that people are totally fine with having a live service game that provides them new content, cosmetics they have to pay for, if that new content is good, if the game actually functions. But going into like a new update with like a PTS server that lasts a month and then fixes basically nothing, because when the block weapons were reported to not have a proper parry bonus on like the PTS server on day 1, and then we go into the actual release of patch 8.0 and it's still there, like, what are you supposed to say to Saber besides like, what the fuck's wrong with you? Or unless they're trying to like stealth nerf these things, which, to be honest guys, I think that Saber Interactive does just stealth nerf some things in this game. Like, they'll change things like battle focus 100% got hit with a nerf last patch. It no longer counts the aspects for your parry with like the bonuses from concentrated fire and things like this, and they nerfed it and they didn't put it in the patch notes. You know why I don't think they put it in the patch notes? It's because they're afraid of community backlash, because they don't want to actually get shit on. Because you know what happened at one point during patch 5.0 when Lethal came out is they made the game way too hard while not buffing practically anything, and then guess what we got after people gave them a ridiculous amount of backlash? We got an entire patch like a week later that buffed like 15 weapons in the game and fixed a ton of the other things, and also removed the modifier that sucked in the game immediately, because Saber actually had the fire lit under their ass. You know, there's a balance balancing act to this. You don't just want to shit on a company for no reason to be like, oh, Saber sucks for everything they've done, because there are good developers at Saber. There are good community leaders that do try to like reach out to players and talk to them. But you know, at some point, you as a player base, you can hold a company accountable because you are the customer. I know people say this all the time, like the entitled customer, but guess what? When you buy something and they advertise something that's like an endless wave, or they're expecting you to buy more, you are totally free to criticize said thing, because that's how you get better products in general. It's just how, you know, the market works. And in the case of Saber Interactive, they're giving you a subpar product and they're trying to ask you to buy like the bare minimum for cosmetic DLC packs. The DLC packs we've got in this game, people talk about like my Games Workshop is holding Saber back all the time. That is partially true. Like, you know, you can't just come out with like, all right, here are all the Heretic Astartes pieces. They do have more overhead than modders do, but the price tag of these things and like the free updated things that they've given us, like the Mark X Tacticus armor here with the skull, this is like one of the most ridiculous looking armor pieces. Even if it is lore accurate, it's just like the bare minimum. And the best upgrades, or excuse me, the best cosmetics for this game they've released are from the actual Twitch drops. The Mark 8 Errant helmet is like the coolest helmet in this entire game, and guess what? It's only a Twitch drop. Same thing with the, if we go over to the Bulwark here, the Sergeant Matoris from the secret level stuff, like the best unlocks, like the base cosmetic unlocks in this game are from Twitch drops, which is just so hilarious to me. And like this is one of them here, and this is one of the coolest looking armor pieces in the game. And when you look at like what mod authors have done, even with just like blatant things like being able to put new icons on that like surely Saber could do with some overhead, even if it took them like a month, but it seems like they just aren't putting in effort at all. And I really want to talk about the progression in this game, because Saber comes out with the Siege mode, and Siege mode can take you like 3 hours to complete on hard mode, or even longer on normal mode if you're just taking your time. And it's just kind of ridiculous that they thought like, yeah guys, here's your undercooked mode where like half of the requisitions don't even make sense and how they're purchased, that breaks half the time, and you should just play this for 3 hours and then wait for only a balanced patch in August, because we don't actually have any new content next month, and then maybe we'll give you like one new weapon in September, because people want this game to be an actual live service. And that's really like what the point I'm trying to get across here, is that people want to play Space Marine 2. They are willing to play more Space Marine 2. It wouldn't have as many players as it does now if they didn't like what was here, because the gameplay loop is pretty fun once you learn it. Is it the most like in-depth thing ever? No, of course not, but it's fun, and it's a lot more fun than I expected it to be for a Space Marine game. Otherwise, I wouldn't have like 2,000 hours in it. But you know, after you play this game for 2,000 hours, you just start to realize that like, wow, half the shit in this game doesn't work. And the more you learn about this game's combat system, the more you realize that like half the options you have are broken in some way. Like things like fencing weapons will just like, you'll use your perfect parry, and your perfect parry will just vanish through an enemy half the time. Same thing with perfect block. Same thing with like the block AoE explosions like I mentioned previously. And on the note of the update they did before for like a longevity progression in this game, ordeals in this game suck. They are uninspired, they are obnoxious to get. The ones that like you can just grind through are okay, but the rewards are awful. You know, you look over at Darktide in the penance system, you look over at how Darktide has a title system where Darktide properly displays what players have played like 1,000 hours, who's dedicated their time to having like a new class, and it seems like, or excuse me, who's dedicated their time into a class. And like you have like titles like Poxbreaker for like 1,000, like, you know, 1,000,000 enemy kills, crazy stuff like that. And it doesn't have to be toxic. Like, you know, when you see a Poxbreaker in Darktide, or like you see somebody with True Survivor, you're like, okay, they probably played quite a bit, and that's healthy for a game to have like veteran players be able to show off stuff. It also gives new players something to work towards. And the only time they feel bad is when like the new unlocks you have to get with like the penance systems and stuff like that, or the ordeal systems are like gameplay related, and you feel like you're way behind. Destiny 2 runs into this problem all the time, where like you as a new player, or like MMOs, you come into an MMO as a new player and you're like, I have to go through like 15 billion hours of busy work to actually get where I want to be and play the content I want to play. But in a horde shooter like this, it is very easy to just implement things like titles, implement things like borders that will give people an option to showcase their time put in, or just like their mastery of a class, because that stuff is fun. And the final thing I want to bitch about here is the matchmaking. The matchmaking in this game in general sucks ass, but in the Siege mode especially, hard Siege needs a level cap. The amount of teammates I have had who are perma-dead from like waves 1 through 10 is ridiculous. This is not supposed to be a leveling mode. Hard Siege is like the hardest content in this game, period. There is no way that like a brand new player is going to properly push to 20 ever. So there's no reason that they should be in this mode to begin with. And like farming XP and like the hardest content in the entire game, it's just kind of a a stupid thing to do, and it's not really their fault, it's the matchmaking's fault. And when you're not playing the matchmaking with these players, you're just getting stuck in like a perma-lock of just moving around lobbies because the host will leave, you go kick to the menu, go through like 15 loading screens, and that's just not fun for anybody. And then once you're through all of that, your game will crash, or you'll run into an invincible enemy, or worse, your progress will get reset, because yes, this game does reset people's progress at times, which is just ridiculous. I've never encountered this personally, but I've heard enough stories about it and seen enough stories about it that it's just kind of ridiculous that it's still in the game, period. And Saber doesn't really seem to fix their spaghetti code at all over months and months and months. And I imagine that the next patch will also have a PTS server when we get new content, and that PTS server will likely suck just as much as the last two did. Anyways, guys, sorry for the tangent here, sorry for the rant, but you know, I did get 2 hours of my life wasted for like the 15th time trying to play a hard siege and push to wave 40, and the fact these bugs are still not fixed is just irritating to me. It's irritating to a lot of players, which is why the sentiment is that Siege is fun, but Siege is literally unplayable at times, which sucks. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and as always, thanks for watching, guys. I try not to be too negative all the time, but you know, I do love this game. I want to say that. I love Space Marine 2. I have 2,000 hours on this game. I don't expect, like, literally having confetti to rain down upon me of, like, the most majestic armor of all time, but, you know, it does seem that Saber just doesn't really care to fix the bugs in this game, and, like, I feel like that's step one of just having a functional game, period, because game-breaking bugs are just unacceptable, at least to me, and I don't think that's really a hot take. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Take it easy. Peace.